Welcome to Dies Irae. Irae, I think it's actually supposed to be pronounced Acta est Fabula, the HD version. So, if you're not aware, Acta est Fabula, the play is over. This is actually the precursor to Amantes Amentes, Crazed Lovers. And the trade-off between the two versions is, I think this one is missing Rhea's route or something, I'm not entirely sure. And this one actually has the cut content restored in it. So some of the events are supposed to play out a little bit differently, not just the H scenes, I think. But with the patch, quote-unquote, finally released, here we are. So if you want to get this yourself, you actually need the original Amantes Amentes from Steam. You actually have to get the whole thing, not the free parts. And you have to change your computer's locale to Japanese. So I went ahead and did that. Doing so erased my game, so I had to queue up the Marie route on Amantes Amentes, and basically I just had that going in the background all day while I was doing other things. So if you're wondering why there's a bunch of League videos this week, hey, now you know. But anyway, so we will begin this with a new game. We're going to go with Kasumi's route first. I don't know if all of them are here, but we'll start things off and kind of play it by ear. And then if the other routes are missing, I'll just, like, if anything's missing, it would be Rhea's route. I can go back to Amantes Amentes. The thing is, since I had to lock into the Marie route, I may not be able to skip some scenes, so we're going to have to retread a lot of ground here. So the prologue was the exact same. I just flat out omitted that. We can splice that from Amantes Amentes or just go from here. Just know it's when the three, whatever you want to call them, Albedo, Rupido, Nigredo, will merge with, I guess, Reinhardt would be the best way to describe it. I'm not entirely sure on the exact terminology, and then they vanished for 61 years. So the prologue ended with Kay meeting Valeria Trifa, or Christoph Lundgren, whatever you want to call him, just know it's the Divine Vessel. So I will talk about other events, about things to come. I'm going to try to keep the spoilers to a minimum. It's just I will try to point out foreshadowing and so on, as well as what events actually were different. But anyway, if only time could just stop. It was impossible to truly determine the single greatest moment of your life until you were looking back on things from your deathbed, of course. But I was sure everyone had wished for something similar at least once. It was only human to wish for fun times to continue, to want to relive a moment of glory. It felt only human to wish to hang on to the here and now. Even should its brilliance eventually fade, that still beat losing it. The known was comforting, the unknown terrifying. Everyone must have experienced this sort of anxiety before, especially students like me. It was hardly unusual to experience this sort of feeling. After all, we were at the part of our lives where we had to start thinking about college, getting a job, and just the future in general. We were in the uneasy transition period between childhood and adulthood, so it felt only natural we'd start obsessing with the mundane. One could call it living for the moment, a kind of escapism that arose when you didn't have both feet on the ground. For better or worse, it was the sort of infection that didn't really do anyone any harm. You could just write it off as another facet of youth. But I didn't want to ever get over this particular strain of me as myself. After all, my life up to this point had been more than comfortable. It might have been a boring, commonplace one, but I was fine with it continuing that way forever. If time flew and you were having fun, then the solution was simply not to have fun in the first place. It was best to steer away from the unknown and stick to the default path. Who knew what sort of trouble you might encounter on the road less traveled by? I was enamored enough of my current environment to actually entertain. More than just entertain, in fact. Ridiculous notions like that. To turn one's back on the unknown and seek only the known. You could describe it as playing a game while looking at a walkthrough. That was my, Ren Fuji's, way of life. Always had been, and hopefully always would be. I figured that I could keep my internal sense of time set on slow, if I kept up this line of thinking. Stopping time completely was impossible after all. So you could consider this philosophy of mine to be a kind of compromise, the closest possible realistic approach. I thought that I understood. That nothing lasted forever. That something being finite meant that its end could come at any time.
じゃあお前、例えば自分の人生を小説だと考えてみろ。
Up until the day where he had to go and say that.
漫画でもゲームでも何でもいいが、とにかく一人称語りで進む長編だ。自分をその主人公だと考えろ。
A story that continues from the cradle to the grave, an epic saga that details each and every moment and person that comes into your life, from the minute to the monumental. Think of life as something like that, he said.
そこで質問。今自分が綴ってる小説は実際のとこ面白いのか？主人公としてお前はキャラが立ってるのか？
As far back as I can remember, Shirou had a habit of suddenly going on and on about shit that didn't make sense like this. Most of the time, it was just to try to get a rise out of me.
文法が怪しいとか語彙が貧弱だとかそういうスキルのこと言ってんじゃない。ただドラマとして売りになりそうな花なりトゲなり毒なりを持っているか？さらに同じジャンルを囲った中でも抜きん出ている何かがあるか？自分がやらなくても他の誰かがやるような人生なら生き続ける意味はない。こんなところやそんなところで誰でもできるようなジャンルやっててもしゃあないだろ。連れとだべってバカやって女作ったり部活やったり悪くはないけど珍しくもない。そんなの日本中の同年代がリアルタイムで経験してる。俺は別に数が多いことをバカにしてるわけじゃないぜ。要はそれだけ選びやすい道だってことを言いたいのさ。選択肢があるように見せかけて実は人生一本道なのかもしれないってな。
In other words, what if we're not choosing, but instead being made to choose?
少なくともこの国じゃ最大公約数が強いだろ。出る杭は打たれる、天才は孤独、はぶられるバカ、いじめかっこ悪い。なんでもいいがよ。まあそれは現実的な解釈で理屈つけた場合の話で、俺はなんて言うかな、デジャブるんだよ。これ前にもやったんじゃねえのかなって。楽しくないんだ。新鮮味がない。前にも読んだことある気がするんだ、この話。
With what?
フラグ立てと。
And what was that supposed to?
言ってもわかんねえかもしれねえな。だってお前好きだろそれ。何もかもが基地の範疇、1から10まで同じことを生まれて死ぬまで繰り返したい。そんな気以外他に知らんし。そもそも俺の話に出てくるお前はなんかずれてるトリックスターみたいなもんなんだよ。
I could have said the same about him myself. Shirou was the sort of guy who was impossible to read, impossible to get a handle on. He certainly wasn't the type of character who should have been appearing in my story. So why did it sometimes feel like he was a central figure in it? If we were going with the whole novel analogy, Shirou was a misprint.
そんなお前をここでどかせば話が変わってくるかもしれない。な顔すんなよ。お前だってわかるだろ。俺らはお互いガキの頃にいろんなもんから弾かれてる。本来なら気楽に学園ドラマやってられるような身分じゃないんだ。そしてだからこそ今までそれをやってきた。なのにデジャブが止まらない。挫折もんだよ。泣きたくなる。だから根性なくて悪いけどよ、俺は抜けるぜ。もう付き合わない。人生は短い。エンディングが来る前に選択肢の総当たりをやらせてくれ。この一本道、絶対どこかに別ルートがあるはずだ。俺はそれを探したい。 結果がたとえバッドエンド一直線でも。
If it's something new, then it's worth checking out either way.
だったらここでお前と切れるってのもなかなか面白いと思うだろ。
I'd gotten sick of that grin on his face long ago. It was the sort of expression that seemed to say he had nary care in the world. Fitting, really. That was how I knew that nothing I said would get through to him. Not like I knew what he was going on about in the first place, really. But one thing was certain, Shirou's genre or whatever was about to diverge completely from my own.
死んだら化けて出てくれよ。俺まだ幽霊見たことねえし。
So I was prepared for what came next. Fistfights normally can't go too far. After all, you'd be using your actual hands and feet as weapons. If they got fucked up, you were done. It only made sense to call it a draw when you ran out of ammo, so to speak. But Shirou and I were a little too stupid to let something like that stop us. You couldn't even really call it a fight. We were both just trying to obliterate each other, plain and simple. There was enough blood pouring down my face to make it seem like I was viewing the world through a red veil. We smacked each other around so much that our hands themselves broke. We even had bones poking out of our skin. But we just kept at it. My eardrums had shattered long ago. I was lost in a world of noise and violence. My shoulder dislocated itself, my chin was split in two. My ribs were bent and broken, piercing various internal organs for good measure. Here I was, hacking up blood like it was going out of style, but Shirou seemed to be having the time of his life. Couldn't focus on anything but the way he exploded with laughter. Why did it end up like this? Why did he need to take it this far?
だから言ってもわかんねえって。ただこの町に住んでいたら。
I couldn't remember what he said after that, no matter how hard I tried. All I knew was that we continued brutalizing each other until our bodies ceased to function. It wasn't a matter of one of us deciding to surrender or passing out or whatever. We just quite literally ran out of batteries. We'd both taken too much abuse to keep our bodies going with sheer willpower alone. It was no laughing matter. Our battered bodies were just lying there on the rooftop, drowning in a pool of our own blood. We probably would have died if no one found us. But what did Shirou say?
楽しいな。
Seriously, how the fuck could he act like that was just some sort of game? Listen to me,
こっ
dumbass.
ちに来たけりゃいつでも言えよ。
Don't act like you've triumphed over me, like you've gone on to the next level or whatever. Me? Come at you? Give me a fucking break. You're the one who needs to crawl out of the gutter and come at me, shithead. Left cheekbones, upper jawbone, lower jawbone, right eye fundus, nasal bones, all varying degrees of fractured. Left collarbone completely fractured, upper left carpus and middle left hand bones completely fractured. Right shoulder dislocated, right ulna, metacarpus, and carpal bones completely fractured, ribs number 3 and 4 of the right rib cage completely fractured, 5 and 6 of the right rib cage compound fractures. Ribs 4 to 6 of the left rib cage completely fractured, ribs 7 and 8 of the left rib cage compound fractures. Right femur partially fractured, right tibia, left fibula, both metatarsals completely fractured, not to mention all the various sprains, bruises, cuts, and lacerations. In total, I had damaged 48 distinct locations. If you listed it out like that, it sounded like I got in a fight with a dump truck or something. I was surprised I even made it to the hospital in one piece. To be honest, though, I would have been okay with dying. It wasn't that I had no regrets. I had just kind of reached the zen state. Like, if I was going to die, so be it. Maybe it would be better to say I just stopped caring. That fight had been enough excitement for one lifetime. I lost the will to do anything, barely paying attention to the world around me. I stopped giving a shit about myself either way. Despite my rather unhealthy mental state, my body recovered quickly enough to shock even the doctors attending me. More than a little ironic. Honestly, there was a part of me that wanted to laze around in that hospital a little longer, but I suppose there simply weren't enough beds to keep someone fully recovered lying around forever. The hospital staff told me that I needed to get out of there if I was well enough to be walking around. I really had no choice in the matter. I wasn't a fan of the idea of someone who actually needed care being turned away because of my selfishness. It was for the best that I complied with the staff's request. Regardless of my feelings, the world would keep on turning. They said that time stopped for no man after all. No turning back. What was done, was done. Right now, the important thing was thinking about what would come next. It didn't matter whether or not I was capable of doing it. I had to face the fact that it was necessary, period. That was the only way I would be able to ever move forward. So I decided to walk out of there with a smile on my face, one way or another. I headed back to my room to pick up my things after taking care of the checkout procedure. Of course, the only real personal effects I'd brought with me were some changes of clothes and an MD player. I had spent 2 months in this hospital room, but I figured cleaning it up would probably only take around 5 minutes. It ended up taking 10, but hey, same difference. The extra 5 were a result of having to clean up all the junk that Kasumi brought in while visiting. There were various comics, novels, and even adult magazines. I seriously don't know what she was thinking with these, scattered all over the place, more than a dozen in total. Rather than dealing with them myself, I decided to just send them all back to her place.
じゃあ皆さんお大事に。いや、あいつは今頃学校ですよ。来るとうるさくなるんで一足先に。ってそうですか？変な趣味してますね。
The other patients in the same room made sure to get in a few last lighthearted jabs. I was never good at dealing with situations like this. I doubt anyone would call me the sociable type, but thanks to Kasumi, the other patients would often strike up conversations with me. It would be awkward to just ignore them completely, after all. My responses were always half-assed, but they didn't seem to mind. Hospitals generally had a gloomy atmosphere around them, so it was only natural that someone cheery like Kasumi would draw attention.
ならあいつの進路に看護師って選択も入れるように言っときますよ。
I took my bag and turned to leave. But at that moment,
シローですか？
Shirou, being just as messed up as I was, had also been taken to this hospital. The bastard disappeared 3 days after his surgery and hadn't been seen since.
知らないですね。あいつがどこで何してようと俺には関係ありませんよ。
Yeah, exactly. What Shirou was up to was none of my business. I needed to stop worrying about his bullshit.
じゃあ
I stepped out of the hospital room, putting it all behind me once and for all. It had been months since I had last been outside of the hospital. The vast blue sky spread out invitingly above me. In the 2 months I had been hospitalized, autumn had turned to winter. I suddenly became curious as to whether they were already putting up Christmas decorations downtown.
まあ遠回りなわけでもないし。
I decided it might be fun to experience my own version of the whole Rip Van Winkle experience. I needed a change of pace from the dull scenery I'd been stuck staring at from the hospital window anyway. Maybe this would help me get back into the swing of things.
って思ってたんだけどな。
Unfortunately, even downtown, there was but the barest trace of the Christmas spirit I had been expecting. It made me realize again just how laid back Suihara City really was. Suihara was built back around the time of World War II. Despite being in an isolated location, it was nevertheless fairly prosperous thanks to efforts on the part of the big shots in charge of the place. What Suihara lacked in history and tradition it made up for in tourist attractions. There were any number of facilities to draw in crowds with, such as an amusement park that was famous nationwide. You could call it a small-town success story. Of course, I only moved there 2 years ago myself, so I wasn't really one to talk. I was definitely a fan of the landscape and general atmosphere of the city, though. It seemed like a hectic place at first glance, but things moved slower in Suihara than one might think. Once you got used to it, it was as relaxing as a baby's cradle. Of course, most people would tell you the exact opposite, that Suihara was a lively place with a bustling atmosphere. But I did know a few other people who agreed with my assessment, such as Himuro and Shirou. It wasn't like you could really say that either line of thinking was right or wrong, though. And I didn't feel like trying to argue with people who disagreed. Live and let live, I guess. Anyway, my first foray into the city 2 months didn't end up changing my impression of it much.
帰るか。
In the end, I just came to the boring conclusion that it was the same city as ever. Or as I was about to head back, a piercing wail akin to the shrieking of a banshee rang out from behind me. So much for enjoying a quiet afternoon. It was at times like this that I questioned why I was even friends with this girl. In the first place, who would consider it a good idea to start yelling someone's name in the middle of the street like that?
お前ちょっと声でかすぎ。
退院おめでとう。ねえ、どう？元気かな？もう痛いとかない？って何よその顔。どうかした？
I wanted nothing more than to tell her that yes, I was in a great deal of pain just now, as she had just walloped me something good on the shoulder, but I settled for just giving her a dirty look. This was Kasumi Ayase, my childhood friend at the same age. She was the head of the kendo club at our school. As you can probably tell by this incident, she was rambunctious enough to have competed at the national level several times. And here she was giving me the same wide smile as usual. I suppose the sort of upbeat attitude was one of her strengths.
お前なんでここにいるわけ？
何よ、いちゃ悪いの？
悪いっていうか不自然だろ。
It was the middle of the day. Why wasn't she at school?
サボったのか？
まあね。
なんで？
なんででしょう。
Hell if I knew. I threw up my hands.
私ね、一刻も早くレンちゃんに会いたかったの。会いたかったの。会いたかったの。
ああ、そうなの。
I was glad to see that her stupidity was in full form again today.
留年希望か、お前。
大丈夫よ。あんたよりは私日数足りてるし。
She said as she violently slapped me on the back. It hurt like a bitch.
とまあ、それはするとして。あんた何一人で勝手に帰ってんのよ。迎えに行くって私言ったの覚えてないわけ？
いや、そりゃ覚えてたけど。
I wasn't exactly expecting her to skip school just to come pick me up. It would have been a pain in the ass to wait around that long. I tried to explain my line of thinking, but Kasumi wasn't having any of it.
じゃああんた後で電話とかする気だったの？
Definitely not.
っていうかお前の番号って何番だっけ？
これだからまったくこの野郎はよ。何ですか？君は携帯使えないんすか？いつの時代の人ですか？着信履歴の見方すらわからんお人なのですか？
失礼だな。それくらいわかるぞ。
じゃあ貸せこのクソ。
Kasumi snatched away my cell phone and began to tap away at lightning speed.
はい、電話帳のトップに入れといたからね。消したら怒るぞ。つうか閉めるぞ。
笑顔で言うなよ。ところでこれなんだ？愛のヴィーナスって。
あたし。
とりあえず狂気のベルセルクに変えとくけどな。
変えんなっていうかそれ頭痛が痛いと同じレベルの重複表現。
それくらい強調したいんだよ。そもそもヴィーナス名乗るなら少しは女の子らしい言葉を使ってくれ。
誰が怒らせてると思ってんのよこのバチ当たり。本来ならこう私の手とかがっしり握って「ありがとうかすみ、君は僕の天使だよ」とかそういう感謝の一つや二つって。ほらこっち見る。あんたいきなり大怪我して入院して私心配して毎日お見舞い行ったのに当の本人は上の空で挙句勝手に退院してこんなところをプラプラしてるた何様ですか？マジですか？やる気あんのか？つうかやんのかこら。
やる気も何も。
Kasumi seriously needed to cool it before she popped a vein. She was the one acting unreasonable here. Maybe she would calm down a bit if I actually did the whole my angel thing, but I really did not feel like going through with that.
そもそもあんたは。
However, I did have just the thing to shut her up.
とりあえずお前が病室に持ち込んだ諸々は家の方に送っといたぞ。
はい。
捨てるわけにもいかないだろう。だから家に送ったんだよ。気が利くだろ。
ちょい待ち。それ全部？
そう、全部。
The comics, the books, and of course the magazines full of naked ladies.
その待って家ってどっちの方よ？
実家。
嘘！冗談だよね？
冗談は苦手だな。
マジで？
マジだ。
It would be a sad day indeed for Mrs. Ayase once she received that package and learned exactly what her daughter had been buying.
あんた最悪。買うの恥ずかしかったのに。
じゃあ買うなよ。
でもさ 役に立った？
Now that she mentioned it, the other patients in the room with me had been big fans of those magazines. They didn't pester me while they were occupied with them, so I guess you could say I got use out of them after all.
そこそこ。
本当に？あんたそんなやつだったの？
どんなやつだよ。
ねえちょっと具体的にどの号の何ページが役に立ったの？試しに言ってみなさいよ。またまたこいつめ照れちゃって。私は別にいいけどね。レンがどんな趣味してたって。とにかく怪我が治ってよかったじゃない。特にこことか。
So real quick, in Amantes Amentes, there actually is like 3 or 4 options here to choose from, and then she reacts based on what you choose. It looks like in Acta est Fabula they don't even have that. So I guess they did call in some of the actors to record additional lines or something. She said, poking my cheeks with her thumb.
昨日まで大きい絆創膏してたから傷が残ってるのかと思ったよ。
ああ、これね。
Shirou had been wearing armor rings during our fight, so my cheeks were cut up to hell and back when I first entered the hospital. I didn't really care if it left scars or not myself, but Kasumi got so worked up over while I was recovering that I kept my face covered with bandages just so she would shut up about it. Case in point.
せっかく綺麗な顔してるんだから傷が残ったらもったいないよね。
There were a few things I disliked more than being told that my face looked pretty. Back when I was a kid, I used to get mistaken for a girl all the time. Unpleasant memories to say the least. And even as a teenager, it still happened from time to time, despite the fact that I was hardly short or anything. Scouts tried to recruit female models and called out to me on the street on more than one occasion. Definitely the kind of thing that dealt a blow to your pride as a man. I decided to let Kasumi have a piece of my mind.
わざわざ学校サボってそれだけ言いに来たのか、お前は。
退院おめでとうって？
ああ、他に用がないなら帰るぞ、俺は。
なにその言い方、可愛くないな。遊びたいなら遊びたいって言えばいいのに。
は？なんだそれ。
だからこのままデートとかしたくない？
全然。
あ、いや、まあいいわよ。私もそんなつもりなかったし、上等だもん。帰ったらもう痛くも痒くもないんだもん。
I wasn't sure I understood what was going on inside Kasumi's head at that moment, but that was probably for the best.
でもね、後でレアさんに何か言われたら全部あんたのせいにするからね。
何？
Why bring up Himuro here?
先輩がなんだって？
だから命令されたの。藤井君とデートしてきなさいって。
The hell? What on earth was she thinking?
それでお前はうなずいたわけ？
そりゃあだって断ったら怖いじゃない。
I wouldn't describe Himuro as scary. I mean, she was the type that was just a little hard to get a handle on, but still.
デートね。
レンは嫌なの？
嫌ってわけじゃないけどな。
Just that I didn't know where we'd even go. Like, just going to the amusement park with Kasumi didn't feel like anything special.
俺、大して金持ってないけど。
私もないわよ。
I was about to tell her that we should just forget about it, but Kasumi suddenly started fishing around in her bag.
でも大丈夫。先輩、その辺は卒のない人だから。
She finally pulled something out.
チケット2枚。準備万端でしょ？
Himuro had provided us with tickets to the local museum. Not exactly what you'd expect a teenager to pick. So did this mean that the whole date thing was already set in stone?
ほら、そいじゃ行くよ。
It would seem the answer was yes.
けどお前、芸術に興味なんかあったっけ？
The museum was located away from the main streets. While we were on our way there, I asked Kasumi something that had been on my mind. It wasn't a huge museum or anything, but it was a fancy sort of place that frequently held exhibitions for paintings, ceramics, and the like. It didn't seem very Kasumi to me.
似合わないって？
どうだか。ただ先輩ならハマるかもな。
なんかそれ私が非生産的なやつみたいで嫌なんですけど。
お前何か生産できたか？
料理作れるよ。
Was that really so special? Not that I was one to talk. Cooking and me went together about as well as oil and water.
とりあえずお前の料理は置いといて、結局何がコンセプトの展示なんだよ。
見てわからない？
Kasumi flashed the tickets at me, a wicked gleam in her eye. Frankly, the text on the tickets was printed so large that it would have been impossible not to notice, but
一応確認だけな。
I was still holding out hope that I was just seeing things, because if I wasn't, then it meant we were straight on our way to a gala featuring an assortment of objects I was not interested in seeing. Unfortunately,
世界の刀剣博物館。
my hopes were thoroughly crushed. This was no way to treat someone who just got out of the hospital. Eventually we reached the museum, though Kasumi had to basically fight me tooth and nail the rest of the way there. I'd spare you the details of her dragging me around the place after we got there. I'd prefer not to remember. And so,
ねえちょっといつまでそんな顔してるのよ。
Kasumi muttered in exasperation while looking at a Nepalese knife known as a kukri. I couldn't help having a sour look on my face. The mere sight of these kinds of blades made me nauseous for as long as I could remember. Why did she take me here in the first place? She knew full well I wasn't good with sharp objects.
情けないな。別に噛みついてきたりしないのに。なんでそんなに嫌がるわけ？
なんでつわれても。
Her tone was genuinely curious. Unfortunately, this wasn't something I had a clear answer for.
お前毛虫嫌いなのに理由があるか？
え、毛虫かわいいじゃん。なんかけなげで。
じゃあゴキブリは？
見つけたら叩いて潰すね。
ならヘビとかは？
巻きつけると気持ちよくない？ひんやりしててさ。
Wonderful. I supposed I was wrong to expect a girlish response out of Kasumi in the first place.
なんか言った？
気にするな。
Whatever the case, these things just didn't sit well with me. Little Miss Kendo over there might have found the blades on display fascinating, but I was definitely not having a good time.
もう一通り回ったし、そろそろいいだろ。
つまんないよ。デートでしょ？
お前俺とデートしても楽しくないだろ。
それはあんたの態度次第ね。
She was telling me this?
俺の態度は昔からこんなだろ。病み上がりなんだし、高いハードル持ってくるな。
ほんとしょうがないな。
Kasumi heaved a deep sigh. I was beginning to think that she actually understood, but...
じゃあ最後にもう一回りして帰ろうか。
No, of course she didn't. And so we ended up taking one more lap around the museum. I did my best to avoid looking directly at any of the blades on display. I wasn't sure I could really explain why I had this thing against blades, but it wasn't because I felt scared of them. Maybe they just weren't compatible with me. I didn't want to have anything to do with them, period. Just felt like mixing Renfuji and blade weapons was a bad idea, like putting ketchup on a donut. Keeping my distance was the smart move if I wanted to maintain the peace and harmony in my life. In a way, they almost reminded me of Shirou. I shook my head. Reminiscing about that guy was the opposite of a productive activity. I was on a date, after all. Worrying about Kasumi would be a better usage of my time. Not that I had much confidence in managing that either, but it would be the polite thing to do.
何？どうかした？
あ、いや。
I could have sworn I heard something. Was it just my imagination? So, I really was hearing a voice coming from somewhere.
レン？
I strained my ears. The museum was quiet enough that it should have been easy to make out the voice I had heard, assuming it wasn't my imagination. It was coming from this direction.
ちょっと待ってよ。どこ行くの？
I ignored Kasumi and ran off. I wasn't quite sure myself why I felt so compelled like this. There was no clear reason to concern myself over some voice in the distance. Either way, I found myself drawn to the spot the voice was coming from. Perhaps it would have been more accurate to say I was guided there, even. I found myself in an obscure corner of the museum, the sort of place you'd never come across if you were just taking the normal route through. Normally, you wouldn't even think there would be an exhibit piece somewhere out of the way like this. And yet, there it was.
Guillotine?
I was sure everyone had heard of a guillotine, the execution device used for beheadings. This exhibit wasn't an entire guillotine, though, just the blade used for the beheading itself. The blade before me distinguished itself from the rest of the exhibits by demonstrating a cold simplicity. There was nothing glamorous or decorative about it. This was a lump of steel designed for the sole purpose of beheading with ruthless efficiency. You'd likely not find a more suitable tool for its task. Why was something like this even on display? It was a blade, yes, but it differed from anything else I had seen today on a fundamental level. It might have held historic value, but it wasn't a weapon or implement of some ritual. More than anything, though, I want to know why I had found myself drawn to it.
何これ、私全然気づかなかったよ。
Kasumi had finally caught up with me. She took a glance at the guillotine from over my shoulder.
レン、よくこんなの見つけたね。何？ボイス。
ボアド・ジュスティス、正義の柱。ギロチンの正式名だよ。あとフランス語な。
There's a couple different ways to translate blah, but they give you pillar here.
それからマクシミリアン・ロベスピエール、知ってるだろ。18世紀の政治家だけど。
If you want to know about him, look up Reign of Terror.
恐怖政治の？
And there you go.
そう、そいつに使ったものだって書いてる。
Robespierre was a key figure during the French Revolution, the man responsible for setting those opposed to the Reign of Terror to the guillotine. Ironically, his end would come by the same device he had employed upon so many of his political opponents in the bourgeoisie. This was supposed to be from back then?
なんかうさんくさいな。信憑性はなさそうだ。
でもそんな風に書かれてるとなんか嫌な感じだね。
So, I pointed this out in Amantes Amentes, but a guillotine is a fairly rusty implement. Like, the blade itself is not sharp, it beheads through its sheer weight. So basically this is just like a wedge, a very, very heavy wedge. You lift it up and then gravity takes care of the rest. And since it's blunt, like if it didn't behead you, it would hurt like all hell. So anyways, since this is exposed to the elements, normally it's going to be very rusty, and usually it's not actually cleaned after claiming a victim, so you'll usually have like crusted blood on it too. That's why it looks weird to them, but if you're familiar with the story, we know that's Marie.
同感だ。
Authenticity aside, the idea of putting something like this on display was simply in bad taste to begin with. How to put it? The whole thing felt too raw. The object on display here was a tool of execution. Nothing more, nothing less. So perhaps it was only natural that...
これどれくらい殺したのかな。
One would find themselves asking that question precisely because the lack of ornament present in the other exhibits made its nature as an implement of death apparent.
あまり不謹慎なこと考えるなよ。これは興味津々に拝むようなものじゃない。
そうだけど、そもそも見つけたのはそっちじゃない。
誰だって嫌なものには敏感なんだよ。
Rivers of blood, screams echoing into the distance. All sorts of visions of death ran through my head when looking at this thing. It wasn't often you found something that so clearly embodied the negative side, the original intent of a blade. Given that Robespierre's name was attached to it, it had to have been from the 18th century. If it had really been used during the French Revolution, it was safe to say that it had executed hundreds of people. Someone actually described the guillotine as a merciful form of execution. It was designed to sever heads exactly at the right angle and velocity to ensure that criminals met with a swift, painless death. An instant death delivered at lightning speed. There was a reason some called it merciful. It's easy to get the wrong impression from the rivers of blood and mutilated corpses the guillotine produced. But for someone facing execution, it was probably far preferable to being hanged. Well, assuming that the victim died before they had a chance to feel the pain of being decapitated, that is. I found myself thinking about exactly the sort of thing I just told Kasumi not to.
行こう。正直気分が悪くなってきた。
そうだね。ごめん、顔色悪いけど大丈夫？
平気だよ。別に体調が悪いわけじゃ。
Before I could get the word ill out,
あなた、同じ。
I heard the voice from earlier again, more clearly than ever.
彼と同じ。あなたも。
Why did I react the way I did? If only I hadn't paid attention. If only I had ignored it. If only I hadn't looked at it. If only I hadn't spun around to face that dreaded blade. I would have never had to hear the cursed words borne forth from the ethereal figure standing in front of the guillotine. How could she have known that? What did she mean we were the same?
一緒同じあなたもなる
The girl standing before me had the skin of the purest white, yet that beauty was irrevocably tarnished by a violent streak of crimson across her neck. I almost wanted to believe it was some sort of necklace, but no, the jagged pattern was unmistakably the scar that a decapitation would create. Looking back on things later, I would be able to say that this was where it all had begun. Does my present live up to your expectations, Zarathustra? And thus we met, brought together by him.